My family was released from the IDP camp because of our background as religious leaders. That was also why our living conditions were better. We had a cement floor, but around us, others weren't so lucky. They said it would have been better to die in the war than suffer in the camps. We may have left, but it pains me to think of our relatives who are still there under a lot of hardship. Life was frustrating. We had to queue for everything. When we wanted water, we had to queue in the hot afternoon sun. It was exhausting. We queued for food, we queued to use the toilet. It was so frustrating. It was very uncomfortable when it rained. That's when everyone in the camp will gather and demand to be freed. I know of people who died from lack of medicine. 3 in my camp died because of this and dysentery. I was sick for 21 days. I went to the hospital but had to turn back because it was too crowded. It happened a few times. I had malaria. It was my mother's herbal medicine that finally cured me.
Leaving Manik Farm, Sambanda Ayah and his family were allowed to resettle with their relatives in Batikalor. Like many released refugees, they can't go back to their home states in the north. As Colombo says, soldiers are still demining the region. Sambanda Ayah is among some 40,000 refugees the government has released from IDP camps up till mid-September. That number remains a fraction of the 250,000 or more IDPs still held in camps, waiting for officials to verify if they are Tamil Tiger cadres or supporters. To Sambanda Ayah's disappointment, his sister is still among them.
She's still in the camp. Her husband is abroad, and since they're not religious leaders, she has not been released. I just hope they can let her go as soon as possible.
We have to ensure that there is a comprehensive, proper screening process. There are many hundreds of thousands more, millions in fact outside, who are at risk if the suicide cadres are just allowed to come out.
In the face of widespread international criticism, Colombo points to the east of the country to show how, given time, the situation can improve. Prior to the final attacks in the north, intense fighting occurred in this region. The waters off the eastern shores used to be heavily monitored by the military during the war due to security concerns. The tension has eased over the last 2 years as the government regains control over this region, and that has changed the lives of fishermen here.
We suffered during the war, living in fear all the time. We could not get good prices for our fish. Now it's much better because all 3 communities, Tamils, Sinalis, Muslims, we work together. That also gives us a bigger market for our catch. We hardly even mixed with each other in the past. Now we work together.
We have liberated them. We are now in the process of accelerating the development in those areas. In the east, for example, after we liberated, we immediately put in place an accelerated development program.
But critics say there was a difference from day one in the east. The displaced Tamils enjoyed freedom of movement and were not kept in IDP camps against their will.
I call them prison camps, not IDP camps. If we call them welfare centers, it is a joke, it's a comedy.
Mano Ganesan is an opposition MP for Colombo district. He also founded the Civil Monitoring Commission, a human rights group. He's frustrated that he can't visit the camps up north. While the UN and other aid groups have been granted access, organizations like his face rejection from the government whenever they try to go.
There is no transparency. No human rights groups are allowed to function independently and professionally. Everything is conducted through and by the military.
Well, we have had bad experiences because some of the NGOs, some of the organizations who said that they want to go and visit the place, they have been taking people, they have been trying to smuggle people out.
While the government might have prevented such smuggling with its tight access restrictions, it hasn't stopped people from going missing. An administrator in Vavunia, where Manik Farm is, recently made a startling revelation. A fresh head count showed 10,000 IDPs missing from the camp and unaccounted for, prompting speculation from critics. Were they taken away by the authorities? What happened to them?
We have repeatedly told the government to announce, declare the names and identities of the people who have come into the camps or who are taken away from the camps. Nobody is coming out in the government with responsibility. As a difference of about 10,000 people going missing. Where are they gone?
How do you feel about a report like that?
Well, I would say it may be a little exaggerated, but I'm not ruling out.
But what the government has ruled out are allegations of extrajudicial killings by the military. This unauthenticated video clip appears to show men in Sri Lankan army uniforms executing Tamil prisoners. Sources in Sri Lanka released it this year to the UK's Channel 4 News. The footage spread like wildfire internationally. Colombo immediately issued a blanket denial, insisting it was fabricated. Its ministers then held a media conference after a 10-day investigation, with their invited experts pointing out loopholes in the clip. It included a slow-motion analysis showing how one dead man's leg appeared to move.
If they have gone up to the extent of fabricating, this is below any general norms and practices, and I would say the kind of low level of journalism that are crept into this system.
The strained relationship extends to local media critical of the government. Its Terrorism Investigation Division arrested journalist J.S. Tissanayagam after he wrote articles criticizing the government's treatment of Tamils affected by the war. In August, the High Court found him guilty of causing racial hatred and supporting terrorism. The sentence, 20 years of hard labor.
The message that is sending out is a shocking, chilling statement that anyone who dares criticize the government will have horrendous punitive consequences.
Some believe the assassination of newspaper editor Lasantha Wickrematunge to be one such consequence.